Welcome to Beyond the Numbers with Christian Stevens. My guest today is the co-founder of Lendi Group, owner of Aussie, AI leader in our industry, and former CEO of Lendi Group as well, Dave Hyman. Welcome.
Thanks, Christian. I think former next week, but
still weird to hear that?
It is a little bit, but look, it's a funny one because it's one of those things when you're planning a CEO transition, you have to keep the circle really, really tight.
Yep.
So backstage, we'd been talking about it for over 2 years.
Yep.
And there's obviously a tight circle between, a few of the directors on the board and me and Bass just working through when the right time was. But it was a bit of a surreal couple of weeks, going through the announcement and all that sort of stuff, because you're really bringing that backstage thing to the front stage. But that was 2 weeks ago now, and it's very much, we're moving into that next phase. So really excited.
I can't imagine it's really that big of a change for you and Bass day to day to what you've already been doing, but obviously public facing, there's a lot of change there. What brought that on?
So you're 100% right. So, Bass has always been very much of the two of us, the one that's much more operational. And it's given me the space and latitude to spend time on, whether it's corporate development, whether it's more recently things like AI. And really the key catalyst for us making the decision on this, outside of it being something, in the works for a number of years, is really what's happening in the AI space. I've spent most of this year very, very deeply immersed. We've been building on AI for almost 3 years now. For this generation of AI, we've had, old machine learning version of AI and other things like that in the business for a number of years now. But this year in particular, very, very deep in that space. And that was really the catalyst for me.
The relationship between Lendi Group and Aussie, because obviously Lendi was, I guess, the digital version of Aussie, or the way that I would have seen it. But since the mergers happened, can you just break down, I guess, what is the roles and responsibilities of Lendi Group versus Aussie, and how you kind of define the difference between the two?
Yeah, so probably the best way to think about that is in the chapters that we've had as a business. So we had the very first chapter was the Lendi chapter, and that really started in 2013. You'd probably remember it. Getting a home loan was absolutely crazy back then. It would take sometimes months just to get approved. And our whole original strategy was bring in, we thought there had to be a better way. So we decided to build Australia's first digital home loan platform, which was Lendi. We started at the top of the funnel and then moved down. And we were first to market with everything from digital ID, digital docs. We're the first to integrate with the bank's credit decisioning engine, et cetera, et cetera. A whole bunch of these things now that are in a lot of places commonplace in the industry. When we had the opportunity to bring the Aussie business into the group in 2021, that's when Lendi Group was formed. And so if you imagine, 3rd of May, the day before it all completed in 2021, sort of had Aussie and Lendi as two distinctly different businesses. The very next day, you now had Lendi Group that owned Aussie and Lendi. So you still had two businesses, two tech platforms, two sets of offices, finance systems, payroll systems, teams, everything was completely duplicated. And so really what our task was in this chapter 2 was to basically bring all of that stuff together and create a single Lendi Group backstage operation. And the way to think about that, probably in the simplest terms, is one kitchen, many dining rooms. So there's a single technology team, single marketing team, single finance team, all the stuff that powers the business behind the scenes, single technology platform, single offices, all of that stuff is is Lendi Group. And then we effectively have two consumer brands in Lendi and Aussie, and they both serve different purposes in market. The vast majority, our whole weight behind our business is behind the Aussie brand. And really the way to think about that is Aussie's obviously a household brand. Brand awareness now is almost 70%, millions and millions of customers. And so really made a lot of sense for us to put all of our weight there. And then and that's obviously a very broker-centric model where brokers are at the center of every transaction powered by the great tech. And then on the Lendi side, Lendi is kind of our test bed for digital first experiences. We internally call it our Formula One team. So we're able to kind of build really cool stuff there and then ship it across to Aussie.
Don't take this comment the wrong way, but when I originally saw the Lendi Aussie merger, it's two extremes. Was that integration hard to kind of implement what is the Formula One team into the everyday Australian consumer broker market?
Oh, it was extremely difficult. Yeah, it was incredibly rewarding. I mean, every Aussie broker has such a great story, whether it's a franchisee or a mobile broker. Some of them.
How many brokers do you have? Yeah,
we got almost 1,400 today.
Okay,
so there's just a couple.
A few,
a few, and look, and tenures ranging from like 32 years.
Wow.
All the way down to people that started last week, right? Yep. So, and everything in between, and really the best way to think about that integration challenge was, even though the strategy was sound and history has said the strategy was on point. I mean, we've more than doubled the business since the merger across every metric. So whether we're looking at number of customers, settlements, loan book, all that stuff, all of those have all expanded significantly. The hardest part around going through that change is that, you know, if you think, and I know you still write loans today as well, like brokers have spent so much time with their customers focusing on their process. When you then have to layer on top of that, here is a new system and here's a new way of writing loans and here's a new way of engaging with customers. That is tension. Even if that is the best thing in the world, that is just a lot of tension. And of course there's teething issues, there's things that didn't work as intended, all the things that you have when you have large scale technology rollouts and change management programs. And so we're incredibly lucky to have a very, resilient workforce. But first and foremost, everyone's kind of come out the back of that now with, much more streamlined operations, and we're able to kind of leverage the collective power of the group to drive better outcomes for all of our customers and brokers at the same time.
Because your the loan book of the business is 100 billion.
I think 107 now.
Incredible. I think, not that I'm anywhere near your level, but the business that we've built to date, it's 3% of the size of your business, and it's just crazy to think about how many people are involved. I was talking to someone literally yesterday around people management and how hard that is. And for me, that's been the biggest challenge. What's been challenging for you? How is your day different? Like, what does your day look like?
Well, there's quite a few questions in that.
Yeah.
My day is obviously changing quite a bit at the moment. This year, and I'll just give you two polar extremes. So I'll give you an example from when we were doing the Aussie merger to kind of what 2025 has looked like.
Yep.
In March, April, May this year, we made a call as a business that we were going to go AI native. We saw the technology moving at the right pace, or moving at the pace at such a pace that where the AI models plus the cost of the AI models had kind of converged to a level where we said, okay, great, the step change we're looking for has now happened. And so what we did is we pulled aside a team. We called this Project Aurora. We started that in May, and and myself and my chief product officer actually delegated our whole day-to-day roles and deep dove into this team for 4 months. So we were sort of embedded in this team pretty much full time for 4 months. My day-to-day there was almost like going back to day one startup, but with all the power and benefits of the group.
Yeah.
So we were literally in rooms whiteboarding user experiences, we're sense checking technology architecture, we're speaking, to users and stuff to work out what the right flow would need to be, speaking to vendors and doing partnership deals. That was my reality for a lot of this year.
Yeah.
Completely different pace. If I go to the let's call it 2022. In 2022, we were spending a lot of time on really two main things. One was bringing together the Aussie and Lendi businesses and all of the planning work that needed to happen around that. So there was a lot of internal work around org design, around systems integration, the people management side. So, to your point before about having lots of people, we had lots of people coming together from the Aussie and Lendi business, and we had to work out what that future state looked like. At the same time as spending lots of time on the road, speaking to brokers, visiting stores, understanding not just their, like, what's important to them, but also like their history with the group, because everyone had really, really interesting and unique stories. And I think it's those stories that has helped us craft kind of where the business is today, and ultimately where we've taken it with Find, Buy, and Own to really help Aussie brokers in particular differentiate in market. But those are like two completely different
it's an evolving
ways
it's evolved quickly.
It's evolved very quickly. Yeah.
Find, buy, own. That's an interesting strategy. And not that you didn't have enough in your plate, but when I saw you launching the buyer's agent arm as well, talk me through, I guess, what you're trying to do with that strategy as a business.
Yeah. So if you look at our model, we've very intentionally, whether it's through Lendi or Aussie, we've very intentionally built a branded model where the brand is out there building credibility and trust and then acquiring customers to come into the process. And really the proposition is high volumes of customers, great tech, and then support will make you a more productive broker and ultimately drive better outcomes for everyone over time. If you look at every industry over the last kind of decade or so, in particular those that have relied on players like Google and Meta to drive customer flow.
Yeah.
There are winners in each category, but the clear winner in every category is Google and Meta because they control the eyeballs, CPMs or cost to acquire keep going up, and so your margins get squeezed that way. And now we play in those spaces, but we really sort of, if you think about when people get a home loan, ultimately the home loan is a very pointy part of the transaction. It's a 1 to 12 month window in a 7-year window. And once they've got the home loan, there's not a lot to talk about really outside of, the usual checkpoints. Find, buy, and own for us is all about shifting, like from a business strategy perspective, it's about defensibility against that inevitable creep of Google and Meta.
Yep.
But really ultimately from a customer and broker perspective, and this is really the important bit, it's about actually shifting left and right of the mortgage and actually saying over that 7-year window or 5-year window or 3-year window, if it's a refi, people don't really care about the loan, they care about the home. And so find, buy, and own is all about finding, buying and owning your home. And what we've done is under the find pillar, we've built out a research platform. So we've got 11 million properties and you can see everything you'd expect, photos,
and
listing
those
history,
are probably
history.
direct with your platform, not kind of an API from Domain or REA or whatever.
Yeah,
It's
none of it comes from the portals. We've got a product called Aussie for Agents, and Aussie for Agents brings in a number of direct real estate agents who actually share their listings with us. We help those agents win more listings through a product we have called Seller Assist, and we also have a number of we've got about 65 odd third-party data relationships that bring in additional attributes like everything from noise to zoning to development to all the things you'd sort of expect in like a property data platform.
Yep.
So that powers research. It also powers listings. So we've got all the listings really residential. We play in the resi space, so houses, townhouses, apartments. And then under the buy pillar, as you said before, we've got buyer's agents, we've got conveyancing. And then under own, we've built out a really cool app that has features like live equity and soon to be rate radar, which allow people to kind of track their live equity through the life cycle. And so if you sort of go back up to the 1,000-foot view, what Find, Buy, and Own allows us to do is really engage a customer through that whole life cycle over that whole 7 years in a way that's value adding so that the mortgage is just the next logical thing for them to do.
The reason why I was smiling then when you were talking is I feel like you get it. Like you understand what a future buyer experience looks like, and you have already built out what is a market leading experience, because people talk about diversification into business, but you've gone and built that internally in one platform. It's very impressive.
Still a lot of work to do.
Oh, of course, mate. But the foundational stuff's there, and the great thing about tech and AI and modern business is you're always improving those little 1%. But I think being able to adapt quickly, learn or fail forward is pretty powerful. AI is a bit of a buzzword. And I think I was talking to you about this before. When brokers think about tech or AI, it's a digital client brief or using ChatGPT. Can you explain to anyone listening, I guess, the different types of AI and how AI is actually working within the Lendi and Aussie business?
Yeah, so I'll try and break this into 2 buckets. The first bucket is, as you said, the different types of AI, and the second is how it's being used in the business. So really the best way to think about, like if you stay out of the technical details, and I think that's probably where you probably want me to stay, There's really kind of two types of AI to think about. There's generative AI. So that is like put a prompt into ChatGPT or to Gemini and get a text output or get an image output or whatever that format is. And then there's agentic AI. Agentic AI uses generative AI, but ultimately the way to think about agentic AI is an agent, which is the agent in agentic, is taking action on your behalf and doing something with a set of tools. And those tools could be a servicing calculator, or it could be web search, or it could be generative AI tool, or whatever that might be. And really the big breakthrough that we saw, even though that generative AI is super impressive, so the ability to kind of put some words into this magical machine that spits out an image or spits out a document or an essay or a funny poem to the tune of whatever your favorite singer is or whatever that thing is. That stuff is genuinely impressive. But really where the needle gets moved is with agentic AI. And the reason for that is agentic AI enables the shift from what we call human motion to agentic motion. So then bringing that into the broker space, what that really means is there are things that happen in everyone's business today, whether you're a broker, whether you're in a media business, whether you work for a telco, there are things that happen in every business today that fundamentally just rely on a person to wake up every day and get out of bed and go and do their job. And that job might be doing 5 things in the day or 500 things in the day, but largely it requires a person to move something from point A to point B. So in the context of a broker, that could be getting a customer ready for an appointment. And maybe there's someone in the office that does that. Maybe there's an email that goes out in an automated workflow or something else of that ilk. Where we shift that from human motion to agentic motion is if you've got an AI agent that is has a particular objective, that objective could be to get a customer ready for an appointment. That AI agent could be armed with a bunch of tools. Those tools could be a lookup tool to see what information we've already got on the customer. That tool could be some sort of calculation tool to maybe share some things that are exciting with the customer.
That's what I think about as AI agents are like staff.
Like teammates. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
They're teammates with a very, very kind of specific goal and specific tools they can get access to. And the beauty of AI agents is they can work 24/7 and they can be, scaled across teams and they can, but more importantly in the context of brokers, and this is really where how we're thinking about it at Lendi Group is the AI agents are not there to replace brokers. We've been really open with our whole broker force about this. It's about saying if there's 100 things that you do in your day, let's take these 5 and these 5 and these 5 and these 5 that aren't super value add, and let's get AI agents to do those things so you can focus on the things that are real value add, like building relationships, building trust, building confidence, doing complex scenarios, joining the dots that AI will struggle to join, and all the things that make brokers writing, almost, I think the next milestone is going to be 85% of all loans, right? All of those reasons don't change. It's just about saying, how do you put more time in the broker's day so they can spend time on those high value tasks?
It's funny, whenever I hear an AI conversation, it's more like man versus machine, or, are we going to lose our jobs? And I've never thought about AI like that. It's human centric. It's enhancing you, not replacing you. It's, giving you 20% more capacity or 20% more efficiency, or taking away those mundane tasks, at least for the next 5 years.
I'll give you a couple of other examples. So, and these are probably good ones to kind of help articulate how we're thinking about like the practical application of that human motion to agentic motion. So the 2 examples would be, and these are ones that sort of live today. The first is what we call contract analyzer. So every single purchase, as you know, has a contract to sale. Contract to sale is somewhere between 100 and 600 pages. You got to trawl through it to kind of work out the key information. And typically a customer will have a look at it, probably doesn't know what they're looking at unless they're sophisticated. The broker will look at it as well. They might be able to give the customer some guidance, but then ultimately you got to kind of get it to a conveyancer to do their contract review. It can take a couple of days. Sometimes it costs, sometimes it doesn't. But again, there's a friction there. One of the agents we've deployed to Aussie brokers is called Contract Analyser. They've just got access to it on the platform. They drop a contract to sale in there on our docs platform, and in under 2 minutes and at no cost to the broker, it costs us about 10 or 11 cents each time. They get a conveyancer quality full review of the whole contract with here's a key summary of all the key facts, here's the things you need to watch out on, here's some key negotiation points, and here's the 5 things you should ask your conveyancer. And so the broker can now do this. It's actually not necessarily about cost. This one's more about time and actually cycle time. So you can deliver that real value back to the customer when you're sitting there as soon as you got the contract to sell, as opposed to having to wait a few days. So
Isn't
stuff
that crazy? Like the 2 minutes.
Yeah, I mean, it's, this is the power of AI, right? You've got these massive big machines.
How many contracts have you reviewed to date? Because I would imagine, obviously, once it's learning and evolving, and you've got thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands of reviews, you're going to start to pick up, commonalities between, things to look out for, and it almost becomes not better than a conveyancer. I probably shouldn't say that, but it'll enhance the conveyancer significantly, or it'll enhance the broker to be able to offer something that other brokers aren't.
Yeah, correct. Look, we have done hundreds and soon to be thousands, and you're 100% right. I think the beauty of AI systems is your ability to generate data and insights from what you're doing.
Yep.
And have a reinforcement learning loop back into that, so it gets smarter and smarter over time, is super powerful. And whether that's looking at, we've got AI, and I'll give you another example. This is a really simple one. We used to, after hours, we used to get every month, literally thousands and thousands of phone calls from people after hours just wanting to chat or ask a question. Something like 17% of those people used to choose to leave a voicemail, because obviously out of hours we don't have 24/7 contact centers. So less than 20% of people would leave a voicemail. We've now got an AI voice agent that speaks to all of those customers. We tell the customer it's an AI voice agent. We ask them if they'd like to continue. Something like 80% of customers continue and speak to the AI voice agent. And now what happens is the AI voice agent can either answer the question, take action, or it can then work out what a human needs to do. And when the human gets that message the next day, it's all quite highly synthesized. And we now have observability over 100% of what's happening there. And so we can continue to refine.
What have the results been for that?
We had something 17% up to almost 80%.
Isn't that crazy that something so simple could have such a big impact? Because getting clients is the hardest part of any business. Yeah. And if you're bleeding that much business, like, especially not leading a voicemail, you're not going to go back and call, numbers or be able to get a hold of them. For next year, I guess what's on the Dave Lendi vision board of stuff you're hoping to tick off? Because obviously, you've done a lot of work to date, I'm sure, on a lot of this, but like what's coming? Because what you mentioned before was already exciting enough for most, but I know you got some big things in the works.
Yeah, look, for us, we've got a pretty well set strategy, and we actually have taken the approach over the last few years to talk about a lot of it externally quite a lot. Yep. So most of what we're working on is all, we've even touched on today. So if I break that into kind of 3 key components, we've got our core business, which is really the Aussie business, and we're continuing to invest in above the line marketing and growth marketing to drive more customers into our platform, because we've got a broker force that is growing in efficiency and also growing in size. So we're going to continue to spend more and more money on marketing. So see Aussie in more places in your local community, which is awesome. The second aspect, and you'll start to see this play through in the first as well, is the find by own piece. So I mentioned before we got an agent platform called Aussie for Agents. We're going to continue leaning into that space. We've got over 9,000 real estate agents now on the platform, and that's growing at over 1,000 a month. So we're going to continue leaning into the real estate agent side of things, and that'll see us offering home loans to more and more real estate groups as well. So we've sort of gone to market with real estate groups in a way where they connect their listings to our platform. We help them find their next listing as well. So we've got a product called Seller Assist. Again, that's actually soon to be powered by AI. We've got an agent match agent that's going live soon that will help our team find the right agent for our customers through that process. And then also we've got a number of these real estate groups that are asking us to kind of, as they're sort of coming into our ecosystem, to kind of help them kind of handle the home loan inquiry that kind of comes out of their world.
I actually know about this because I've been to 3 meetings recently pitching to real estate groups, and I'm up against you.
Oh, there you go.
The Lendi or Aussie opportunity. And look, it makes sense, right? Because partnership is one thing, but value add is another. And I think when you think of traditional broker partnerships, it's, I need a client who needs finance, here's a broker. Whereas you're getting ahead of it and saying, look, here's some other stuff that we can add you as value add, which makes your services so much more valuable to the bigger broker groups as well. And I was talking about, obviously when I started broking, you've got 100 pretty shitty referring partners that send you one lead every few months, and it's quite hard to grow. But if you get a bigger partner that's got, say, 100 agents or 50 agents or 20 agents, it's a much easier way to grow. But you're thinking bigger picture. So enterprise level partnerships is untapped because 98% of businesses don't have the capacity to be able to do them. Yeah. I think it's really interesting that TikTok or Timely Home, for example, have partnerships with, NRMA and Qantas and these bigger platforms, and only about 5% of deals are done through those platforms, and 95% of the deals don't, because obviously they don't fit Bendigo Adelaide Bank funding. It's just an interesting model where if you've got the workforce to be able to do those bigger partnerships like you have, you can tap into an unlimited amount of clients.
Yeah, and it comes back to the whole ecosystem conversation we're having before, which is, it really is a knife fight if you are trying to just play at the transaction level.
Yep.
And that knife fight works, right? Like our whole industry operates in that way. But in particular, the further you get to try and scale that beyond, to your point, beyond like a few referrers, you really have to, in our opinion, try and differentiate yourself. And so what we've tried to do is, going back to that whole find by own strategy, is for everyone playing in the ecosystem, whether it's the broker, whether it's the real estate agent, or whether it's the customer, it has to be win-win-win. And if you can find a way to do win-win-win, then you can just replicate that through the whole space, because you're not just trying to win the attention of a customer and trying to incentivize someone to give you that customer. You're actually saying this is actually part of a bigger story.
You had your AI native event the other day, which I attended, which was fantastic, at Machine Hall in the city. I saw something that very excited me a lot. Was agentic credit assessment. For anyone listening, basically, once they complete a client portal, a team of AI agents basically went through and did a credit check, cross-checked liabilities, searched, did serviceability, repayment tables, broker notes, bank notes, compliance notes, and within 5 to 10 seconds or whatever it was, you had a full breakdown of what is an assessment of a client. Might not be that amazing to you, but traditionally that takes us 2 to 4 hours per application. Where do you see the biggest wins for the industry and brokers moving forward? Like stuff like that, I see. Are we going to just remove loan processing altogether, or will we see credit? The capacity to do 3 times the amount of credit. It's just a really interesting one to think about. What does the next few years look like? Because you actually said something at that event, which made me think a lot about it afterwards, was, if you're not implementing AI, you might not have a job in 5 years' time. So where is the industry in 5 years' time, in your opinion?
I might start with the background to that comment, because I think it helps answer the question. And ultimately, when you think about big technology shifts, the driver of the shift in terms of how fast it happens is ultimately the consumer. And if you think about what's happening today, most of the big AI companies have chosen to give away their core product basically for free. So whether it's the actual free version or the $20 a month version, it's basically nil cost. And what is happening in that context is you've got literally billions of users around the world now using AI in there every day. That is only going to increase tomorrow and next week and next month and next year. So there's this base level of expectation that every consumer will have around access to information and answers. And so that becomes the expectation, whether you're a travel agent, whether you're a stockbroker, whether you're a mortgage broker, or whether you're in any other industry, your customers will have an expectation of you that is the lowest common denominator is what they're getting for free from the big tech companies. And that's what we've seen in every other industry, by the way. So the user experiences in Airbnb and Facebook and Instagram and all the other apps that people are using every day, Uber, those user experiences become the expectation around everything else. The same will be true of AI, but what we're talking about with AI is access to information. And so going back to my contract analyzer example before, if you imagine a purchase transaction, and to your point before about what you saw at the AI native event, right? That's the collection of like lots of the different steps that happen. So, you get a client file. Let's say that client file has a mix of data and documents. You could break that up into 5 or 10 distinct little windows, and you have AI agents doing analysis on those things. Like that, to my mind, is the future state experience that needs to come to life. We're pulling it off bit by bit because you've got to get each bit right, and you actually deliver real value through delivering each one. But ultimately, in the not too distant future, that should be the expectation, I think.
Do you think, because obviously we're talking before about, market share for brokers is almost 80% now. Do you think the banks are going to be implementing, they probably already are, the same kind of thing on their end to try and get back market share, or doing, an online version that's faster, cheaper, quicker than what a broker can do? Is that going to be their angle, do you think, to get more business, or how do they win here?
I've got 2 points I'll make on this one. I'm not sure they do win. Is probably that's actually not one of the 2 points. That's probably just my overarching statement. The reality is banks have been trying to claw back share from brokers since brokers existed, and there was probably a point in time where they had the market leverage to do that. But at the end of the day, the reason why almost 8 in 10 loans are written by brokers is because consumers have voted with their feet. And if you think about the different dynamics, like can you go and get can you get an online home loan from any major bank in this country? Like absolutely, you have been able to for a long time. I remember one of the big 4 banks launched their first end-to-end online home loan process. And I can remember which office I was in and where I was sitting. So it was like 2016. So almost a decade ago, right? Yeah. So you've had online home, and it's only gotten better since then. There's been other ones that have launched. And arguably those online processes are better than a broker client portal, as an example, right? Yeah. So you've got this, can you do digital through a bank? Yes, you can. Have you always been able to? Yes, you can. And then pricing wise, the banks have had differentiated pricing for online for ages. All of the majors, bar 1 or 2, have their own digital product, which has cheaper pricing than the broker channel and the direct channel. But customers still are voting with their feet and going to brokers. And so I think
it's because they want to talk to a human still?
I think it's because they want choice. There's a huge trust element to it as well.
Yep.
Brokers are very trusted. Doesn't mean the banks are not trusted. It just means that brokers have a higher level of trust. And brokers ultimately offer choice. And when you're making such a big financial decision, my really strong view in that is that you're going to want some sort of trust layer. Does that trust layer change over time, and do expectations around how that experience needs to look change? Absolutely. But that's really just the challenge, I think, for the whole broker industry is how do we collectively lift the bar? And that's why we're very open about what we're doing, because this is not a winner takes all. This is a big industry with 20,000 plus professionals. And I think there's an opportunity for everyone to think about what their experience looks like over the next couple of years.
What's the end game for you? I guess, that's a big question, but you've already got the biggest brokers in the country, $106 billion loan book, thousands of brokers, millions of clients. You're obviously leaning in pretty hard to the AI side. What's the end game? What does success look like over the next 5 year, a few years? Have you got kind of some goals or some milestones you're wanting to hit as a business?
Yeah, we do. Look, I think talking about business milestones can be a little bit boring. Like, of course, we want to grow the business.
Yep.
We've got a history of we are a growth business at our core, and we'll continue to do that. I think the real thing for us is, if you go back to my point before about the 3 chapters, so the chapter 1 being the Lendi chapter, the chapter 2 being the Aussie merger, and then chapter 3 being Find, Buy, and Own. Each one of those chapters has had a very distinct objective or set of objectives that we've been going after, and this chapter is no different. And really, if I think about what success looks like, I think the opportunity for us as a business is we're really trying to redefine what it means to get a home loan in Australia, and not just get a home loan, but ultimately how you find, buy and own your property. And if you think about how that was, I'm just going to sort of maybe point in the past. If you want to go back 5 years, you either started your process with a broker or with one of the property portals. You then might have lots of breakpoints. If you started with a broker, you might find out a bit of how much you can borrow. You then might go into the market and see what you can get. You then go into a real estate agent. Most of this is all offline, by the way.
Yep.
and you got this huge fragmented, I won't go through it end by end, but you got this fragmented experience end to end. What we'd really like to see, and whether this is and we would certainly have all the building blocks, as you said before, from a platform perspective, but if you fast forward to the future, what we'd really like to see is a great unified digital experience for people to find, buy, and own their property. And so the way that looks in practice is, if you've already got a property, you're using our live equity tool to track what you've got, and we're giving you proactive insights around what you can do with that equity. Rate Radar is helping make sure you're on the right rate and engaging you and your broker at the right time to look at, whether it's time to refinance, to go after one of those opportunities you're looking for. And then ultimately, as you're going through that buying journey, we're proactively sharing properties with you and seamlessly helping you buy that property, whether that's a full service experience with, say, a buyer's agent, or whether it's just a do-it-yourself and you're using our mortgage experience. But ultimately, fundamentally changing the way people find, buy, and own their home.
It's very impressive, and it's making my mind's racing, because I've always had this idea that or thought around the proactive nature of AI in terms of understanding your individual needs and objectives. If you've got a house and it goes up 10% in value, you should be able to tap into that equity or do instant modeling around, here are all the properties worth $400,000. Would you like a buyer's agent to do the DD on that? Or would you want to, or you've got $300,000 in your SMSF. Do you want to buy a $500,000 property at 70% LVR? But with that modeling, you can get that individual assessment of a client's outcome, of a situation, and then map out what building a portfolio would look like. It's really powerful. We do manually anyway. Massive value add. We've talked a lot about work. I always find it interesting talking to people who are high achievers around what they do outside of work. Like you're married.
Yep.
You have 3 kids.
3 kids. Yeah, 3 daughters. I'm a lucky man.
Yeah. What's Dave doing outside of work? What do you on the weekends? What do you do to kind of switch off? Because it can be pretty consuming work. Mentally, when you're really excited about something. What do you do outside of work? What's exciting for you? Yeah,
look, the kids take up quite a lot of time.
How old are they?
Youngest is 8, and I've got an 11-year-old. Well, she's not 8; she's 8 in January. I have an 11-year-old, and then I got a 16-year-old as well. So all girls. So there's a bit of netball, a bit of basketball, bit of soccer. There's lots of sport. Dance concerts, all that sort of stuff. Surf club. We live up in Avalon on the northern beaches, so spend a lot of time on the beach. Avalon's a very, very big and vibrant community as well. So there's just a lot always happening on the weekends. So the weekends are pretty kid focused. You made a really interesting point there. What do you do to switch off? I think switching off has to be a really conscious thing. And so I think, one of the things I've really tried to do, in particular as a dad over the last few years in particular, is really just be very, very intentional about those moments where, which hat am I wearing, and presence and all that sort of stuff. Spend a bit of time. I really enjoy keeping fit. Spend a bit of time CrossFit gyms. It's probably not been as much in the last 6 months as the 6 months before that, but I always find that's a really good centering thing, especially when you're traveling a lot, to keep you on the healthiest side of the spectrum. Being present is an interesting one. I've spent a lot of time with my beautiful wife, but there was a period for, again, probably 6 months as well, where we were spending a lot of time together, but it wasn't present time. And I think guilty of being too invested in things, or things that I'm excited about at work, and understanding that when you go home, you need to be able to wear those different hats. Some advice, because obviously, majority of people in broking have families. They're running a business that's stressful. All of them actually have their partner in the business. How have you been able to switch off, or I guess put the dad partner hat on and not be Dave Hyman from Lendi? Well, I think it's going back to what I was saying before. It's being really, really conscious about what mode you're in at any given time, and the things probably that have moved the needle the most is simple things you put your phone in your pocket when you pull into the driveway, and you focus on presence the minute you walk into the house. Is one example. The other is if you're traveling or you're doing late nights and all that sort of stuff, it can be really, really easy to let check-ins with the kids and stuff at home slip. So being really intentional about finding time in your calendar to make that stuff happen. Because ultimately presence it's a feeling as opposed to a specific thing. I think you can have, as you just said, you can spend a lot of time together and not be present. I think you can spend a lot of time not together and still be present as well. Yeah. So I think it's about getting that balance.
You can also be present at work as well with your team. It's interesting because as the business grows, you understand that the attention and time that you give people, genuine time, is really important to see their growth as well.
Yeah, I mean, maybe just pivoting that a little bit into like leadership and some of the stuff that we've learned at Lendi. We've been very intentional as well about the culture that we wanted to build, and in particular leadership presence and team member presence as well. And so if I think about how we do that inside the business, just to bring a couple of examples to life, like for example, and we don't do a lot of this stuff because a lot of it's in person now, but when COVID happened and we all went to remote.
COVID, yep.
Yeah, it feels like a lifetime ago. Yeah. It's only a couple of years ago. We were really quite intentional about like things like everyone has video on and you're not doing anything else but being there.
Yeah.
And the same thing kind of applies like now to meetings. Again, we have a pretty reasonably good meeting culture in terms of intentional meetings and all that sort of stuff. But if you're in a room and you're in a meeting, like you're in that session, you're not on your phone, you're not, tapping away on Slack or emails or anything like that.
Yeah.
And really just trying to give leaders the ability to kind of be conscious of that, and also like the psychological safety within the team that if people are doing that, they can not so much be like called out in a bad way, but just, reminder that presence is really important. If you're not intended to be somewhere, then you're actually not adding value. So it's actually a waste of everyone's time.
It's interesting. As soon as you're getting busier, like I think I'm guilty always of saying yes to too many meetings. And I find that I'm sitting there going, what the fuck am I doing here?
Yeah.
It's going to be an email or a text even.
Yeah.
What I found every time that we've caught up or we've talked is that you're pretty direct to instantly give the email to your EA and make sure that they're organising things or make sure that you're utilising your time better. Your day-to-day moving forward, are you still travelling a lot now that you're kind of all in on the AI build or AI, working towards AI native and Lendi? What does that day look like now?
I'd say that 2026 is still probably a watching brief. So still building out what that looks like.
Yeah.
I've always got quite a bit of travel, but a lot of that stuff now is kind of AI related. So like we were just in San Francisco a few weeks ago and New York.
Yep.
We were seeing a bunch of the top AI companies. So we took it was actually a really fun trip. So every couple of years we take our it's kind of a take on the Chairman's Club, like the old Chairman's Club concept. So rather than a junket, we take our we got almost 1,400 brokers. We take our top 25 brokers plus a number of the top lender partners we have on a study tour. So 2 years ago, we went when we were shifting to find, buy, and own. We went and saw Rocket Mortgage and we saw CoreLogic in the US. And so we did a trip to Detroit and Dallas and then out. That was the last trip. This trip was all AI focused, and so that was all San Francisco, and we saw everyone from Anthropic to Nvidia to Salesforce, Slack, Twilio. There was a whole bunch of different companies we saw, and that was really like super eye-opening because we were able to kind of on one hand share what we were doing, but also from a pretty diverse field of companies that are either AI companies or building with AI, understand how they see the world. And our brokers really got a lot out of that because it helped them see that how other businesses and industries are implementing AI into their customer flow or their equivalent of a broker flow or whatever that is.
AI didn't exist like a few years ago in terms of in the word, really. Obviously, the machine learning and everything before that. I can't imagine my life without AI. I can't imagine. I know ChatGPT is not the epitome of AI, right? But I use ChatGPT all day, every day. It's such an ingrained part of our business now. It's just the adoption's been incredible.
What's your favorite thing that you use it for?
I've really done a lot of deep diving into prompting, how to prompt properly, and also built my own GPT. So I've built a storytelling GPT. I've built a newsletter GPT where I pull in data. It just puts together a newsletter for me. Just trying to find all the manual, time-consuming tasks that I would traditionally do on a weekly basis. Build a GPT and pull in the information. even for this podcast, right? I built a GPT for the podcast. So it'll go and do deep research on the guest. It'll come together with questions for me, questions that are relatable for the guest, extra questions. It's just really interesting because, again, traditionally I could do it myself. It would take a couple of hours, but it takes 2 minutes with GPT, and I find that I can just do a lot more. I can do this at scale. I can have 10 guests or 8 guests a month. Liaise with all of them without compromising that relationship. Where before I'd be like, how do I have time to go and interview all these people? It's just really, really, really interesting for me, and especially that deep research feature. When if you're thinking about a new idea, you might go do your SWOT analysis or your market research and your competitor analysis, and it just would do a level of detail that probably you would never do yourself. And I guess it gets out a lot that's in here. I know it's there, but it just puts it down on paper. And I think for me, that's been the biggest value add, is giving me back more time.
Yeah, I think it's giving you back more time, but I think it's also, it enables you to have high quality conversations.
Definitely.
So a really good example of that is yesterday, like I use a couple of different tools as part of my daily workflow. One of those is called Circleback. And so Circleback it's a very, very simple AI meeting note taker, but they've got one of the really cool features of it. It's got a mobile app that is there's some sort of engineering voodoo magic in there that doesn't drain your battery, so you can use it all day long and you're still at 80% on your battery. And I use it in literally every meeting. So any virtual meeting I'm in, any physical meeting I'm in, this is probably one of the only sessions I've been in the last many, many months that I haven't had it on. But I think you'll give me the recording of this one anyway. And what that then does is it all lands in a central spot afterwards. But really the point on this one was, yesterday I was sitting down with someone for a coffee, noisy coffee shop. We're having a chat about, she works for an AI company, having a chat about AI. I had my Circleback on, so it's recording on my phone. We then started talking about all these different topics, and I was chatting with her and I said, do you mind if I just start prompting while we're talking? Because I just want to understand more. She was trying to remember a company and which industries they operated in and a whole bunch of information there. So we start prompting, we're having a chat. The results from that prompt are coming back, augmenting the conversation we're having. So we're now able to have a conversation about, effectively, to your point, like deep research info that neither of us could recall at the time, and maybe would have gone and looked at it later. So we're having a more quality conversation that's being recorded into the Circleback. And then when I got back to my desk, my workflow automatically after any session is I dump any other notes I've got into basically it's effectively like a custom GPT, but it's not in that system. And then it spits out and runs into another workflow. So I've got kind of like it's a workflow around what I need to do next. And in this context, it was not only the Circleback conversation, the voice notes, but also 3 or 4 prompts we ran and the output of those prompts. And so I've now got this really, really rich set of information about like off the back of like a 30-minute coffee. And in the old world, the quality of conversation would have been so much lower. And maybe I would have had 5 dot points in a notepad.
And you've got deep research now. You've got all these different things to then go and the next conversation you have, you're going to have a set of notes as well. If you think of a dumbed down version of that, broken notes from a client call, you can, if you understand how to prompt it properly, then you can have a proper breakdown of compliance, bank, broker notes off the back of a conversation. You hand those off to a credit team or a loan processing team. It's going to be far better than you would ever do yourself.
Correct.
And the consistency as well. It's exciting.
It's super exciting.
Yeah. Dave, thanks for coming in. It's always really exciting to talk to you. Mildly daunting at times because I guess you're thinking and you're acting in the future. And I think for our industry, it's super exciting, but I appreciate your time. Thank you.
No, great to be here. Thanks for having me.